You're back with your girls, Meesa and Meah from You Already Know. It's M&M Live Radio. And Meah, listen, it's the moment we all have been waiting for.
Yes, sir. That's right, Meesa. He's an OG and a trailblazer with a 20-year career in hip-hop. He's in a new season of life in his artistry. And listen, y'all, he's in studio to talk all about it. We're talking about his upcoming album and so much more, man. We're here to welcome The Truth in studio.
Hey.
Truth, what's going on, bro?
What's going on?
Listen, we're so happy
I
to have
made it.
you.
I feel like I made it.
No, listen, I was just about to say, so y'all, we met Truth, y'all, when we was babies. We were babies in the game, y'all. We were brand new to doing interviews. It was Stellar Awards weekend, and we were new to hosting, all that. And we experienced so much that weekend doing Stellars, and we were amongst a lot of big wigs, a lot of professionals. So being small in the game, people really weren't giving us the time of day and things like that. And y'all, we went to an event. We met Truth, and he was so warm, him and his team, people around him. So, and you've always showed us like a lot of support since then, even from afar. So I just want to say we appreciate you, and we're so happy to have you. Thank you for taking the time to come out here to be on M&M Live Radio.
Easy. Let's go.
Listen, we're so excited to have you. So let's go ahead and get into it, because I feel like there's a lot of anticipation happening around you right now when it comes to you. You're in a new era. You got a new name. There's new music, you know what I'm saying? So we're excited to dive all into that. Describe what this season has been like for you, this whole new era, this new season of life you're in.
Yeah, it's number one. It's been one that I've been kind of glad to embrace. One of the things that I'm trying to do is I'm really trying to push the genre forward, just in terms of maturity. In other words, I think it's just about aging gracefully, and taking ownership of the new space, completely owning it, understanding that, I'm not 1K few, just in terms of, the new, young, white, hot, and I'm not trying to be that at all.
Yeah.
But neither am I, some of the guys that were the predecessors for, that set the stage for me.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like right in the middle, and I'm the middle child.
Okay. I feel that.
I'm the middle child, and so with that, I'm looking to one of the things I'm looking to do is kind of elevate the thinking within our genre. Because when you think for mainstream hip hop, it had to age. And Jay-Z was kind of the first to, make aging, make it chic.
Yeah.
Love it.
He came out with the song "Change Clothes."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Talk about it, yeah.
And so many others. First to kind of wear a suit, kind of go business mogul, kind of go
evolve.
And just mature and become a seasoned. And so his conversation even changed in the music. You could sense the maturity, not just in, what he wore, but in what he talked about. And so by the time we got to 444, he's grown.
Facts. Facts.
And you get that sense that he's talking and speaking into, not speaking down on in a condescending way, but speaking into both his own space and then into the generation that's, the younger generation that would, kind of come behind him. And so I think for myself, in terms of the season that I'm in, I look to do something very similar, just to be a person who, it understands this is the stage of life I'm in. I'm not 20, but I'm not 60.
Yeah.
I'm the middle guy. I'm still creating at a high clip, and I want to leverage the respect that I have within the genre to kind of mature it, grow it up, and even expand it sonically. So I'm really excited about just the kind of the burden that I put upon myself for this season of my life.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that speaks to like awareness of what you bring to the space, how much time you put into the game, but then where you see it going, and where you will want to see it move forward.
Yes.
But in this season, Meah, it's so much evolution. It's so much change. It's so much maturity that's happening with what we know as the truth.
Yeah.
But one thing that I'm really excited about to talk about right here, right now, is one of the biggest changes that I feel like took my breath away. I was like, oh snap, what's going on? But I got to talk about the name change.
Yeah.
Like, we're going from the truth to Emanuel. Like, walk us through that.
Yeah.
What made you want to go from the truth to Emanuel now?
Yeah, it's been some time I've been really working through this, this decision. And I really feel like this was the right time. Mm-hmm. There was no better time than now to actually make this change. I thought about this 4 years ago.
Whoa.
But I think one of the things that has been painstakingly obvious even in my own life, is just that I'm not the same person in every way. So I have to clarify this because I got a lot of questions about this. Are you not telling us the truth anymore? Are you, certain people understand this as a compromise or see it as, so if you're not, are you changing your name because that's no longer what you represent?
Wow. Wow. Okay.
And so, no, that's not what I'm saying.
Straight. Let them know what's up. Give them the truth. No, they ain't no lies. We still speak the truth right now.
I'm still speaking the truth for sure.
Yeah.
But the truth for me was a kind of a very different person in some ways. Fundamentally, I think I'm the same. I'm the same at the core of who I am. But the truth, if we can, I hate to talk in the third person. It's kind of But you know what I'm saying. The truth was, a really kind of assertive and aggressive and very black and white. Mm-hmm. And one of the ways that I'm different now is just after having lived just a little bit longer.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah.
I've come to understand that life is a bit more nuanced. There's a lot more gray than we are oftentimes either aware of or willing to acknowledge. Life is a bit more complex. There's more ebbs and flows. There's more, than I was aware of when I was like super like, no, this is it.
Yeah.
That was just a season of my life where that's all I knew, And so now I think I'm a lot more tempered, and I think I'm a lot more measured and kind of have probably a broader understanding of how life actually works, and life is tricky. There are a lot of moving parts.
Absolutely.
And in as much as I would love to be able to just pigeonhole every circumstance and every scenario and pigeonhole and just kind of, lock everything into one thing or the other, it's just not how it works in real time. And so I've evolved, I think, in a lot of ways. I've also just become a lot more diplomatic.
Okay.
I'm a lot more conversational now than antagonistic.
You feel like you were antagonistic? The truth?
I was a lot more, because I was a lot more aggressive and assertive when it came to certain things. If I had to have those same conversations today, I'd have them a lot differently.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's not that. I've ended up with a lot of fights with even my peers in the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had the Twitter fingers before Twitter even was a thing.
No. Backstage, in green rooms, on tours.
Oh, the real. On site. You know what I'm saying? From Philly. You know what I'm saying? You won't play no
not
games.
Not Twitter. No. Yeah.
The real deal.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. Well, I'm still, we're all still very good friends now.
Yeah,
but the point is,
now. Right.
But the point is that I've had to do some apologizing throughout the years, not because my convictions were wrong per se, just because at the very least how I approached, some of the conversations that I ended up having over the years. And so this evolution is just one of humanity. That's what I feel like. Just from a human perspective, I just feel less like a caricature of myself, or a person who's here to uphold, and I'm just more of like, I just feel more human now. I feel more down to earth, more incarnational. And I felt like just a name change, Emanuel, just my name. It's just me. I'm just your brother. I'm just your friend. I'm not here to, you got me.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
I can go on and on, but yeah.
No, but I feel like that's dope, only because I feel like one thing that I've heard you more so say is talking about how much you've learned, and if I had conversations now versus back then, it would have been different. You've learned a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, even though we talked about, even in the intro, how much of an OG you are, it's so many of you that we can literally say have paved the way for so many of the up and coming and those that are running the same footpaths that you paved the way for. It's just interesting to see you just evolve in such this gracefully, beautifully way in which you are able to speak into the next generation and not speak down to that generation. Like, we can truly see the difference. But Meah, I feel like now it's time.
Yeah, it's time.
It's time.
Oh, it's time. It's a good time.
It's a great time. You know what I'm saying? Because this project came at the greatest time, in my opinion. But we got to get into this creativity of what you have invested into this project.
So what was it like creating with a, I want to say, new identity, new mindset, I guess, in a sense, moving from truth into you're more down to earth, more centered, more leveled self?
I think if you listen to, you could probably, if you just started at the moment of truth and just kind of went through my entire body of work, you can probably hear over the past 4 years the kind of the change and some of how I've approached my music. 2016 was the first time I think this process really started in me. When I did the It's Complicated record with Dr. Bobby Zacharias, that was the first album I said, I don't want to be polemic, I don't want to be preachy, I want to be conversational. It was the very first album I did that with. And the reason why I felt that was so important is because I felt the climate was shifting. Things were changing and people were less likely to embrace dogma. People didn't want you to tell them what to believe anymore. That had gone out the window. If it even looked like you were about to tell me what to believe, cancel.
Right.
Walls. The door slammed. It's over. There's no chance that there's going to be any healthy dialogue taking place here. And so once I realized that the climate was shifting and people didn't want to hear you preach to them or preach at them, not that preaching is that I'm demonizing preacher or anything like that. I'm just talking about how the climate is receiving what we do now. Once I saw that shift, I said, the only way that I'm going to be impactful in this climate is to begin to become more conversational. And so that was where that process that's where kind of the creative process for me started changing. It took a lot of editing. It took a lot of, as you're writing, you get used to writing a certain way.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because when I put out that record, I actually got in trouble for some of it because there were a lot of people that felt like, you sound like you're uncertain of yourself as a Christian.
Because they were used to you being a certain way.
Yes.
Wow. So
now
you
like
sound
that's where
uncertain. The transition took place?
Yeah, I just feel like that's where the transition took place. That's where the transition took place. And so from that point on, if you listen to Bridges, if you listen to Vet, you'll kind of hear a softer, more conversational version of my...
I'm going to be honest. So before the interview, I'm not going to lie. I'm listening to all the old truth. So I'm like, we going duty. I'm listening to the old stuff. I'm thinking about the new that's on the way. And I'm thinking like, whoa, it's like a 180, but it's kind of like truly a true blossom.
Yes, it's a blossom.
You know what I'm saying? It's a blossom in a way of you're budding, you're budding through, in your career, and then you're starting to settle. Then you just hear the evolution of it all throughout your discography, and then now placing here with the new album on the way, people are going to hear it. And I got to be honest, so. Anytime I hear artists say oh, this my best work, Jack, man. This my best work. I be like, man, you trying to get your streams up, bro. Like, what's going on? It's I thought your last work was your best work. But
I know I said this before. I promise this one is
exactly. So, but listening to this truth, I can honestly we listened to the project last night, y'all, and this is your best work.
It is.
Truly and honestly. And it's interesting because Chemo, our engineer, was listening to the album with us, and something he said that was so it made sense to what he was saying. The album sounds so encouraging. It sounds like you feel lifted listening to it. You know what I'm saying?
Triumphant feel.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you about the headspace you were in writing because, usually when artists, they dive into a project or whatever, it speaks to whatever they're currently experiencing. So I've heard albums where people are going, where they're grieving, you hear that in the music, where they talk about that, or relationships, you hear that, that love and all that. But hearing this triumphant, encouraging, uplifting sound sonically when you listen to the album, was that where you were with, with this era? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that for me, I wanted to tell a story. And so I think that what people are going to get, let me say it this way. When people hear that you wanted to tell a story, they're thinking about what you're talking about.
Yes.
I never think about projects or music that way. I don't think about music in terms of what I'm going to talk about solely. I think of music as a conversation that's happening sonically as well as lyrically. Mm-hmm. So it's the entire body of work that I'm telling. So every song is telling a story. Mm-hmm. And it's not just what I'm saying, it's what every part of the composition is communicating. Mm-hmm. And so for me, what I wanted to do, I think from top to bottom, from the beginning to the end of this record, I wanted it to feel like a journey. Yeah. I wanted it to feel like and again, I don't like the language because everybody says it, but I wanted it to feel like a movie in a sense. In other words, to take you. That's what he said. He said, that's what I said. I wanted you to, just a movie that leaves an indelible mark, Yeah. Yeah. That sense of when you walk away from it, and this is what I tell people. I tell people about this project. You cannot, or you should not, just stream a song at a time. No. No. You should start at the beginning. And clean the house.
I'm gonna be honest with y'all, for real, no skips. No skips. You can't listen to this album and pick through it and stop. Like you have to listen to it in its whole entirety.
But I'm so glad that Emanuel, because I'm so used to calling you the truth.
That's all good.
But I'm so glad that you even mentioned that it was like a movie, because one thing we mentioned in our little small circle of listening back to the project and having our own like little listening party in a way, I believe it was our engineer, Chemo. He was like, one thing that I hear about this album is that it just sounds cinematic.
Yes.
It sounds very theatrical in a sense. Like, honestly, it seemed like a soundtrack to your life at this point, at this season. You know what I'm saying?
But there you have it.
And I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. In moments when I was listening to the project, I felt like it looked like the end and triumphant, successful portion of the Medea movie. Then over here, we're going to the Pixar, uplifting, encouraging moments.
We just won a war, and now we all celebrate.
Yes. You know what I'm saying?
I'm thinking, remember the Titans. Like, it's a lot. You know what I'm saying? But it was like, it just seemed like also with this body of work, it was a great opportunity for placements. I'm not sure if that was like what your intentions were, but I mean, a lot of times in our space, we hear a lot of hip hop and R&B that gets placements for video games and like commercials, but this was just something that I've never heard before. Yeah. Was that intentional for you?
Yeah, and yes, it is. And something that we've never heard before is just what comes out of me. I don't think that way. I'm not like, let's create something I ain't never heard before.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you just go for it.
Yeah, because and I want to say this too, just a little bit about my creative process. I am so Greg Cox and I, y'all know, we're we
shout out to Greg.
Yeah, we worked on this project for 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 3 years. Yeah, and the way. Our process is very much. So I am a producer in here. Mm-hmm. Okay. Greg said the other day, he said, boy, if you could play something, you would be dangerous. Oh. Because all I can do is tell you, here's what I see. Yeah. Here's what I hear. Here's what I feel.
Okay. Okay.
Which is a big part of it for me. I'm creating based on a feeling. That's what you're hearing. Mm-hmm. So I'm not creating based on sound. Mm-hmm. I'm not like, what's this sound like? Oh, that sounds dope. Here's what I told people. I don't want to see fire emojis for this album. I don't want people to be like, oh, that's hot. Yeah. Because I feel like you missed it.
Okay, I feel you. Okay, yeah. That's because you ain't listening. Yeah. Like you lied.
No, but not only that, but I felt like the organic instruments of what we felt and what we're able to hear. We hear a lot of, like Abletons. We hear a lot of, like electronic
hi-hats,
808s, bass drums. You know what I'm saying? But we heard strings, we heard tubas, we heard trombones, we heard the organicness of the music, and I could appreciate that.
Well, I'm a music major first, so before I started rapping, that's what I thought I was going to do. My plan was to go to Berklee College of Music. Okay, I had a partial scholarship to Philadelphia, University of the Arts. Okay. I played in all-city jazz band, all-state jazz band. I played, first 4 years of high school, I was in the third highest, the third the third best music program in the country. Studied independently at Temple University for 2 years. Studied at community college for a year.
Basically, y'all, Truth
I'm a
does
music
this.
major. I'm
Basically.
literally a music major.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm a music
Yeah.
major first.
Okay.
First, yeah.
Okay.
You
So
hear it.
so now it took a while, but when I first started rapping, I kind of went full rapper, which is what makes it hard for people who started with me to appreciate the new stuff.
Okay.
Because they're like, we want moment of truth. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
We want the fave truth. And it's like, what they're experiencing is, and when I first started, I was just like, let me give them these bars, you know,
Right.
or I'm just trying to communicate, or I'm trying to, and as time is going on, you know, as time went on, what people are now experiencing is all of, you know, my musical background, you know, just kind of being implemented into my, and so for me now, when people ask me, they're like, do you still love it? And you say, I said, you know what I love? Rapping is cool. I do enjoy it. I still love the craft. I still love the art. But what I love most is creating the experience.
The entire ensemble.
That's it for me. What I wanted to do with this album is create an experience. I wanted to feel immersive.
Yeah.
So when you listen, you're placed into. That's why I don't want people to just say it's hot. Oh, dope line. Cool. That's cool. Anybody who does a fire emoji, amen. I'm not dissing you. I'm saying.
Yeah.
You're getting the thumbs up emoji. So
Thumbs
you're
up.
fired.
Okay, cool. Amen. But most importantly, what I want people to feel like is they are in the Van Gogh immersive. you
Wow.
know?
Wow.
So yeah, that's the goal.
Wow.
No, it's crazy because hearing you say that and then listening to it, that's what that is.
Yeah.
Like you have to listen to it. Man, I'm telling y'all, I cannot wait
Yeah.
for everyone to hear this album.
Yeah.
Like it's so worth listening to, and you feel it. It's an experience. You need to sit down and be able to soak in everything
Yeah.
that it has to offer. So with that being said,
Wow.
since we have you here, Truth, we gotta dive into the album just a little bit.
Okay.
Just a little bit.
Easy.
That's all right with you. So I want to talk about, you said something in Set the Bar, talking about like your evolution, and you said that people were saying you fell off. And Truth, I need to know, who said you fell off, man?
Yeah, like,
Who-
do you feel
Are
like
they
you fell off?
like
No,
what,
not at
that's what I'm
all.
saying. Did you ever feel like you fell off?
No,
Like, what was that?
no. That's not even a category for me.
Okay.
So what was your reaction when you felt like when people were saying that maybe it made Truth's different, feeling like you're not on your game
That's
like
what
you
it
used
is.
to? Like,
It's Listen, if you have been doing this for more than 3 years, you are going to hear everything. You're going to be criticized in every way possible.
Yeah.
Again, I'm just not the guy on the social media platforms going back and forth with
Yeah.
my detractors.
yeah, we ain't one of those. We can't be one of those.
You know, I just really try to stay above the fray, keep my head down and do what I do. You know, just let the music and speak for itself and the consistency. Because all you have left when you've had longevity in this to prove yourself is consistency. You don't have creativity. You don't have lyricism. You do, but you don't. And what I mean by you do, but you don't is there are always going to be critics on both sides.
Yeah.
If you go and try to become who you once were, moment of truth, the faith truth.
Yeah.
Okay, you get your core, you get your base, but then you lose, the creatives, you lose the artists, you lose a newer audience, an expanded audience. You lose, if you go expanded audience,
You lose
you
the
lose
core.
the core.
Yeah.
And what consistency does is consistency provides time for you to lose everybody and regain them.
Wow. Okay.
Hear that.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
you just have to keep going because you're going to lose them, and then you're going to lose them, and you're going to lose them, then you're going to lose them, and before you know, everybody's going to start peeking back in a little while, be like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so Jay-Z said it. He said, first they hate me, then they love me, then they hate me, then they love me again. When you look at sports, you look at LeBron, you look at Kobe. Part of the reason why I love them as transformational leaders, for one. But beyond that, they've had to pivot in their games. Kobe did. He had to pivot. He had to. He wasn't as athletic as he was when he was a younger player, but he was still putting up 81 points. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
LeBron is not as athletic as he used to be, but he's still dominating the game. And so what happens is, people have to figure figure out who you are versus who you were, and before you know it, everybody's back. But it takes consistency, and that's what I'm doing. I'm just keeping my head down, and the people who, might criticize me for not being as punchliney as I was in the times past.
Right.
And not giving them bars. So when they do hear, sometimes I do give them bars, just a little bit, like a sneak. Oh, they be like, that's the truth we know. Like, I don't want you to only know that. That to me, that says you're not coming on the ride with me.
You want them to grow with you.
I want them to grow with me. That is literally what I have been. That's what I started the interview talking about. That my goal is to help, when I say grow the genre, expand the genre, that's what I mean. Because part of the reason why it's difficult for people to come with you and CHH if you're doing what I'm doing is because they are just accustomed to a very specific, particular sound.
Right.
To you guys' point, you were saying we're used to hearing the 808s, we're used to hearing the hats, but in here we're hearing orchestral arrangements. And we're hearing, well, it's an appetite thing, it's a palate thing. It's like, well, the culture really doesn't have a palate for it because there's not enough of it. So I'm one of the lone voices and the lone creators moving in a space that people are not really have not adapted to because it's not common. In the mainstream, it may be a bit more common.
Right.
You'll get the likes of a Kanye. I don't know if I'm allowed to say his name on the show.
No, you good. Excuse me.
It's
But it's innovation.
It's innovation.
Yeah, it's embraced.
It's innovation. And so when you innovate, this is just, it's par for the course. You're going to get people that are critical of what you're doing. But you can't stop because I can't stop. It's the reason, why and this is not like a brag. This is just to say, I do believe part of, obviously the grace of God, but I believe part of the reason why I'm still here and, relevant is because I will not play by the rules creatively. I just won't play by the rules creatively. I'm just
but that's how you go far.
I think that's the key.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it
and
really
so
is.
they're going to criticize, and people do criticize. The fall off is everybody has their own version of what it means for you to have fallen off.
Okay.
Some people it's like his lyrics. Some people it's like what happened to the music you used to do. Some people it's they just want you to be who you once were, and I can't sit still. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
50 can do that. 50 does an amazing job at being who he was 30 years ago.
Talk about it,
and it being successful.
Yeah.
So there's room for that.
Right.
Like that's been 50. Gangster 50 has been the brand for 50 Cent for 25 years.
Day one.
That man has been a gangster for 25
years. And he got fans who love that.
And, I mean, and he built an entire empire on it.
Has. Yeah.
I mean, beautiful, brilliant. You see what I mean?
Right.
So I think there's a space for that. And that's what people would like from others. I think it's easier. It's just easier for people
It's probably comfortable too.
It's comfortable for people. Like, just right there.
Yeah.
And so when you're a little more fluid, like I am, you're going to have people that criticize it. But I do believe, I'm a firm believer that if you maintain consistency, everybody comes around eventually.
Man, love that. Dropping
Gems.
so much gems,
Yeah.
man.
Gems,
I cannot tell you how I almost just about at the end of every single song, passed out.
Jesus.
Because of the star-studded features
Jesus.
that were on the album's lineup.
Right.
Mia, Kim Burrell,
Meesa, PJ
Miranda
Morton,
Curtis, PJ Morton, but this is one that kind of got me. You know what I'm saying? You had Bread of Life, Fred Hammond.
Come on.
You are the living word, Fred Hammond.
The GOAT.
You had no weapon.
Shout out,
Fred Hammond. So I have to make sure I get into your mind here because the moment I heard this legend's voice, I was on the floor.
Me too.
So we all
I was like this.
Yeah. I was laid out, Emanuel. Hear me when I say this first time, but talk to me about this, okay? So did you always envision him being on the track? How did this relationship even develop? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so the way I create is I do not start with features in my mind. The most important, and I'm glad I'm doing a lot of interviews around this album because I feel like this is a side of me people don't know.
Okay.
I feel like people know cerebral, thinky truth, but the creative side of me is so important. When I'm creating, it's about the music. I care about the integrity of the experience, of the creation, of the music, of the moment. Yeah. That's what I care about. If it did not make sense for the music, I would never have any feature. Like, if getting a feature compromises the integrity of the music, I won't have a feature. I don't care who the names are. I can care less about the name. I start with am I creating the moment?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then when I'm in the process of Greg and I going back and forth, I'm saying, here's what I hear. He's like, here's what I hear. Okay, we're going back and forth. We're doing voice notes. We're doing the whole thing. We're working through it. Well, by the time, oftentimes features don't come to the end. It's like once we figure out what the chorus is going to be, what the feeling is going to be, what the direction of the content is going to be, because it also has to be, contextually something that makes sense for the artist that you're getting.
Absolutely.
So you have to figure out all of that, lay that groundwork, and then I will insert whoever makes the most sense.
Well, I like that, and I'm interested in continuously learning about your creative process because I like the fact that you're not going to compromise the creativity. No. You're not going to compromise the writing style. You're not going to compromise that portion because it's so important to you.
Yeah.
But the feature is like literally the icing on the cake.
Icing on the cake.
That's all it is.
That's what it is. That's what it is. It's once you get to the point in the song, you let the song tell you who's supposed to be on it.
Wow.
So, when I hear a song like Free, I'm like, who? I need a singer on it. It can't be me.
Right. We might gotta flex the golden pipes, but we'll leave them down just for a little bit.
I'm gonna leave my vocals in the shower.
Right. Okay?
Right. It needs to be female.
Yeah.
Who makes the most sense? Who has the sound? Who has the timbre? You see what I mean? It's not who has the profile.
Got it.
Not who has the followers.
Not who has the followers. It's who makes sense. That's Fred. Because he sings like an instrument.
Yeah.
So when we came up with the line, that's Fred. That's Fred.
Smooth. Smooth vocal.
Yeah, he's, So I'm saying all this to say that is my creative process. When I was working on Gray Hair, it had to be PJ. It's nobody else.
Nobody else.
It's nobody else.
Nobody. And every feature just made sense.
Yeah.
Like every person made sense. I want to go into another person, young legend, Aaron Cole.
Oh, come on.
And I know like you and Aaron, y'all go way back. Y'all have a specific relationship, but even him, like, like bridging the OG and like, the people who paved the way, but then even people who are upcoming, who are, even speaking of Aaron, people who are a young legend in their own right today.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Talking a little bit about the new generation of artists, because you were talking about, raising up the genre and things like that. Coming from you being a trailblazer, what are your thoughts on how the genre has grown to be what it is today?
You know what? It's been a ride for sure. Having been in it for so long, I have experienced at least 2.5 decades of kind of watching this child go through growing pains. And I've seen everything from what some might consider the golden years, the kind of the embryonic stage of Christian hip hop, where the likes of the cross movements, well, obviously before then it's Mike Peace and all of that, but in terms of popularizing it, popularizing the genre, cross movement, gospel gangsters, yada yada yada. So I'm living in that space. I'm a fly on the wall in that space, and I'm in it at the same time.
Right.
Where there was heavy emphasis on using your platform to philosophize and and to preach and to be a theologian and to and all the things, and the reason why CHH was like that back then, I think this is an important note just for all the younger audiences. The reason why it was so didactic is because it was warring against or providing an alternative for mainstream hip hop, which was didactic back then. So right now we might have songs that are more provide an alternative to materialism, because mainstream hip hop has a heavy emphasis on materialism.
Yeah.
Well, back then the emphasis was the artists back then were arm, leg, arm, head, like Allah, and it was a lot of black empowerment and gods and earths and right knowledge and Islam, and the artist of that particular time, even Nas. Look at the artwork on, remember Nas's artwork, the Egyptian, fake gold Egyptian, it's like, because at that particular time, that was the order of the day, using your platform to philosophize.
Wow.
And so Christian hip hop at the time said, hey, we got to provide an alternative, because people are hearing this, because because music is one of the primary forms of indoctrination. People are not just hearing this and having a party to it. They're hearing this and being taught something.
They're studying at this point.
They're studying at this point. And so Cross Movement came along and said, we gotta help people to understand there's another way to think about these ideas. Mm-hmm. And so early on, that's what it was. And then we went from Cross Movement to Reach. And then Reach took it and kind of started a little bit like Cross Movement in terms of missional focused.
Of course.
And then decided, what's the one I'm looking for? Distance themselves from that very, very, streamlined way of doing ministry, and kind of branched off into some other stuff. That created a bit of, turbulence within the Christian hip hop community. We kind of ran into a bit of an identity crisis, and people were trying to figure out who they were, and what do we do? Should we be Christian? Are we Christians that are this, or are we artists who are Christians that are? What does that mean? We ain't got to do this no more. Or, yes, we do. And it's just like So we went through the little tussle. That was the tension. It was a little tight, and we weren't. I believe though we worked through that. And now we are kind of coming on the other side of it, where we because that season we got splintered as a genre.
I agree.
We were splintered. I agree. Yeah, we were like, it was like, we were divided by our ideas and whether or not we are artists who are Christians or Christians who are artists, and what all of the implications of that are. So when we became divided around that and scattered as a result. Now I believe we're kind of seeing things come full circle, which is exciting. I'm gonna be honest, it's really exciting to see, what Cray is doing, what KB is doing, what the gospel rap is back. And, you know what I'm saying? Like gospel rap and Wande, and it's like it's so many. You can feel a sense of cohesiveness again. Yeah. You feel that sense of solidarity once again. It's like, we're tightening up. Yeah. Again, even, watch this, and this is the thing for me. We're tightening up even with disagreements.
I can see
That's
that.
the key.
Yeah.
Because we disagree, and then it was like, and then we all split apart of ways.
Right.
Now it's like, okay, even if we lean a little this way or you lean a little that way, it's fine. Here's what's most important. And I feel like we're kind of setting our sights, on the big picture, the prize, the goal.
I agree.
That's outside of us. And it's been really exciting to see Christian hip hop kind of finding itself again, settling back in. That's what I feel like. It's like we're settling back in.
I feel like we also have a new identity of what it means to unify.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. That's the point I'm making about. We don't. It doesn't mean we have to agree on everything. It's just something bigger than us.
Absolutely.
That what should kind of force us to rally together and mobilize forward as a unit. You see what I mean? So I'm really excited about it. I was with KB last week, and we talked a lot about it. And I was with him like 2 weeks prior, and we talked a lot about it. And I was encouraging him, because I said, bro, it's crazy just to see how I believe God used him as a central piece to unifying the genre again, And it's been beautiful.
But I feel like, honestly, truth, that also kind of speaks to the fact that, you and the other OGs like Cray and KB and like some of these other just pillars in the game, the genre and the the divisiveness into the unity that you're talking about, it kind of started and it's kind of ending with y'all, because at first you said, honestly,
that's good.
You said
fire emoji.
You said
that's what a fire emoji. That's what I'm coming at.
But I feel like truly, like he said, the truth in his era was very aggressive, combative. You know what I'm saying?
Had to pull back a little bit.
I think it caused for a lot of us who were listening to be a little bit like that. You know what I'm saying? Be a little bit more divisive.
Yeah.
Now it seems like, because we also follow KB, we also follow Lecrae and all these other artists, and even Truth.
Yeah.
Now Emanuel.
Yeah.
You know, they're having more intentional conversations.
Yes.
And because those conversations are had, we're able to understand a whole lot more. You're unteaching us what you once taught us.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Good.
So now
it's the healthy deconstruction.
It's the healthy deconstruction.
That's
a fire emoji.
That's a fire emoji. Yes, sir. Yeah, man, that's good. That's really good.
But I love how in depth we're going with this conversation. Now, I just curious, like, who are some of your faves to listen to in the new school of CHH right now?
You mentioned Wande. You said Gospel Rap is back with you.
Yeah, I think so. I think, I really do enjoy, and I'm not just saying this, I really kind of enjoying everybody. Yeah. Like everybody from Toby to Few, Wande, What Up RG, to KB, Flame, like everybody who is kind of sitting in a place of influence in it, in the genre.
The whole spectrum.
I'm really just kind of appreciating to God Over Money. I just love, I'm like, ooh, I like what everybody's doing in their respective.
And contributing to it.
Yeah. Everybody's just making their contribution. It's like mainstream hip hop.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what mainstream hip hop is.
Right.
It's like, oh, I love what J. Cole is doing. Oh, I love what Drake is doing. Oh, I love what everybody's just. Nas just put out he did one with 21 Savage. It's like
right, even the collaborations.
You see, it's like and so for me, I just been really observing, listening, watching, and then experiencing at the same time the growing pains, and now being able to kind of sit back, settle in, without watching with necessarily a watchful eye, because 5 years ago. We were watching with more of a watchful eye, like what's happening. When somebody put an album, I'm like, I don't know what's about to pop up on this. You just don't know,
right?
Now, granted, I think that there are a contingent of people because the culture is more liberal, mainstream culture is more liberal, and that's impacting Christian culture. So you do have a contingency of artists that are coming on that are kind of weed smoking and cussing in their music, and it's harsh, and it's like, oh, we out here winning souls. So I think that part of it may be a little. I think that's on the peripheral, but I think that might be a little questionable. But outside of that, what's at the core, beautiful.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about what you love seeing the CHH artists do in the space. Is there anything that any artists are doing that you wish they would do a little bit less of?
No, only because the only thing that I wish any artist would do less of, so maybe the answer is yes, is not be self-aggrandizing.
Unpack that for me.
I think self-aggrandizement is a temptation. I think it's the pride of life, though. And it's a temptation because it is the way of mainstream hip-hop.
Okay.
Mainstream hip-hop is me, I. Look what I did, look what I got, look who I am.
Okay.
I'm the man, I made it. I think that can get a little tricky. On one hand, somebody's going to argue, no, this is just... we need more empowerment coming out of African American spaces, young men who can establish, set a precedent and be an example for for other young African American men that you can make it. So even if you listen to mainstream hip hop, like when they're talking either on the gram or in an interview, they're like the rationale may make sense. You may hear Meek or Rick Ross or whoever. You know what I mean? You may hear them like, or 21 Savage. You'll hear him like, yeah, I just, I like to talk about, my jewels or whatever, just because, I know I grew up in the projects where we ain't have nothing. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
So you're like, that kind of makes sense. Like, it's a part of you that's like, I can see the reasoning. But I do think that it's an overemphasis on what I got, who I am, what I did, and then I think that it's a fine line between I'm just doing this to empower the next man, and I'm doing this out of a sense of self-inflation.
Okay.
And so I think in Christian hip hop we do have some of that.
Okay.
I'm the man, here's all the reasons why.
Yeah.
And I think we have to safeguard ourselves from it, because I think that's what worldliness is. Worldliness is not the fact that we're rapping. Worldliness is lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes.
Of course.
Pride of life. And I know it's a thin line, and I think it's a conversation to be had. Where does it start? Where does it end? And everything in between. But if there was one thing that I wish we did less of, it would be that.
Wow. Okay. Man.
I've heard a lot of conversations about that, though, because hip hop is very much a sport where
for sure.
you talk big about yourself.
Oh, for
like
sure.
you talk your talk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then I've heard so many conversations with track stars and other artists. I think I heard Aaron Cole even talk about it a little bit. A lot of artists talk about how they've had to wrestle with that.
For sure.
They've had to find that,
I've had to wrestle with it.
that space where it's kind of like, okay, this is me, but this isn't about me. So I can see that. Speaking to that, I can see where a lot of
it's a tightrope.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a tightrope.
And pride is sneaky.
Oh, yeah, it's sneaky. And not everybody is aware. It just depends on where you're getting your cues from.
Oh, really?
You see what I mean? Like, some people are just like, oh, this is what hip hop is doing. I went through a season. So Kim Burrell, a lot of people don't know this. Kim Burrell I have to credit her for so much of where my career has gone. Because when I first started rapping, I didn't know what I was doing. I grew up in a Christian home listening to B.J. Thomas and Shirley Caesar and The Wine is a Commission.
Come on.
So when I started rapping, I was like, oh, shoot, I know how to rhyme words together, but I don't know nothing about the culture. And so I was kind of a late bloomer in terms of understanding, oh, this is what you do in hip-hop? Nas was hot at the time. Jay-Z was hot at the time. That's why I sounded so much like Jay in the beginning. Because these were my reference points. These were my only reference points because I didn't grow up on hip-hop. And so I went through a season where when I was trying to kind of find myself as a Christian hip hop artist, I was just absorbing all mainstream. Like I was just at mainstream music, And what started happening was I started taking my cues from them, which was, oh, you just talk about yourself. Oh, you talk big. Oh, you see what I'm saying? And what happened was I was at this service and Kim Burrell was up front, and she was laying hands and prophesying. At the time, I was skeptical of prophecy, and I was just like, what's happening here? And I was my first year at Bible college, so you couldn't tell me nothing. So I was, so I'm sitting out there super skeptical, and then I see one of my homies go up. Because, I mean, the room, as you can imagine, it's packed.
Of course,
it's packed in this room. And I see one of my homies go up, and I know she don't know my homie, but I know my homie.
Yeah.
And she said a lot of stuff that she couldn't know about my homie.
Oh, wow.
But I knew about I said, oh. And so I went up, and she laid hands on me. And here's what she said. She said, at this point, I don't know Kim. Kim don't know me. Right. I'm nobody. Just
Yeah.
She lays hands on me, and she says, you have to stop listening to secular music. It's affecting your ministry.
Who told you that, Kim?
Yo. So what did that moment do for you?
Oh, it literally shifted to, because it resonated with my spirit. It was because I was confused. I was going through an identity crisis. I'm a Christian, so I have these values as a Christian, but I'm a rapper, and these are the values that over in hip hop that are. These are the core values that are, whatever, in this space. So I'm trying to toggle between these two worlds. And I know I'm like in this tension. And I could feel, even when I started performing, I could feel it was less about the main thing. It was less about God. It was becoming about something different for me.
Yeah.
And so, in terms of what it made me feel, it was what I needed to hear from God.
Wow.
And from that point forward, I shut it down. I stopped listening to mainstream. Not saying that you have to stop listening to mainstream, but I needed to personally detox, so that I could find myself. What was my voice? What was my point of emphasis? What was my sound? And so I'm saying that to say that I understand it.
Yeah.
I don't speak as one who is looking down on the person who's right. I speak as one who's saying, I get it. It's a tension that we have to live in, really just as believers in general, that much more as Christian artists, because we have to toggle between what's acceptable by industry standards, what's acceptable by the genre that we're in standards, what's acceptable by, and we have to measure and weigh that against what has God said He, requires of, or who has God crafted us to be? How has God crafted us to be? And do I compromise that for the sake of accomplishing these goals, or do I? And so I get it. With all of that, what I'm calling for is I take a step back to say, okay, and that's really all I'm calling for is a step back.
Yeah.
A step back to say, when you're writing, take a step back to say, not, is this about Jesus? Because I don't think every song has to be about Jesus, or every lyric has to be.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a step back to say, is this more about myself than it needs to be?
Okay.
And that would be it.
What a pivotal moment. Now, really quick, because you mentioned this in what you were talking about, you mentioned going to Bible college and different things of that nature. So I want to switch gears really quick and dive into another portion of who you are, which is a pastor of apologetics. Now, for those that don't know what that means, what does that mean? Break that down for us. What does it mean to be a pastor of apologetics?
Well, shout out to Sam Collier, who had the vision for it, who was able to see that the deep need that the church needs for apologetics. Apologetics is essentially just, I think the definition is expanded a bit, but it is the defense of one's faith. So being able to contend for the faith, defend the faith. There are a lot of people who have built up a lot of walls. So when they hear anything related to Christianity, it's automatically a turnoff. Maybe they've had a lot of bad experiences. Maybe everybody has their own reasons. They can't reconcile a loving God with this, or whatever the issues might be. We recognize that there's a lot of that, or this migration, away from Christianity into liberalism, or whatever, Black empowerment, or Pan-Africanism, or whatever, spiritualism, whatever it is. There's a lot going on, and with all of it, when they hear Christian ideas, a lot of it's like this. And so the question is, how do we kind of remove the barriers that are hindering people from, at the very least, hearing the gospel? We're not here to make a person receive it. We can't do that. But how can we remove some of the obstacles that are keeping people from at least lending an ear to what it is that we have to say as Christians? And so that's what apologetics does. It helps to remove the barriers, tear down some of the walls, that kind of, so that people will at least give an ear. So a pastor of apologetics is essentially, it's bringing understanding that apologetics is not necessarily for, not necessarily something that has to live outside of the church. Because that's how people have seen it, something outside of the church. It's evangelism. But Paul told Timothy, do the work of an evangelist, and he's a pastor. And so evangelism and apologetics, they run neck and neck. Evangelism is the proclamation of the gospel.
I see.
Apologetics is removing the barriers that hinder people from hearing the proclamation of the gospel. And so, as Pastor Sam and I were talking through what my role would be, where we landed was on something that the church needs, and that is to create a space for people that are in the church. Because what's happening is a lot of the people that are now anti-Christian started in the church.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, a lot of the people who are warring against Christian ideas grew up in the church.
Wow.
And so the question for me became, how do we stem the tide in the church? This is why I said I think apologetics has expanded a bit. We have to create a space within the church, because a lot of times what people come out saying is, I tried to ask my pastor this question, and he gave me some surface answer. And a lot of times
he ain't had time to talk.
He ain't had time to talk, or even when he did give me an answer, it was, some, fluffy, superficial, it just didn't get at the heart of what was happening. And the truth is, the pastor probably doesn't take a lot of time studying and researching in those spaces.
Okay.
So they can't, they're going to be limited. And so Pastor Sam recognized we should have a specialist
Wow, okay.
that can address, particularly for millennials and low millennials, high millennials, Zers, that can address all these issues around, social issues, theological issues, philosophical issues, all the spirituality, it's a new ageism, the whole thing. And so Sam understood we had a need for it. I kind of came in and set up a a structure that would allow space for that to happen in an organized way. And it's a pretty cool situation. Still building, still growing as we're going through transitions as a church, but it's something special that we're looking to not just do even as Story, but even expand it beyond it.
Yeah. Do you think more believers should study apologetics more?
Yes, I do. But just, because the Bible says that we ought to be able to give an answer for the hope that's within us. The word for answer there is literally apologia.
Really?
The word apologia means to defend.
Whoa.
And so the Bible says, always be ready to give a defense for the hope that lies within you. The Bible says, and he said, in Jude, he says, I was going to speak to you with regards to our common salvation, but instead, I'd rather talk to you about the most common faith. And then he goes to talk about being able to now contend for the faith, not your personal faith, the faith. The definitive article changes the nature of what he's talking about. He's not talking about personal faith. He's talking about the body of doctrine that makes up the things that we believe and being able to contend for that. And so I do think that there has to be, at least on some level, some intentionality and being able to contend and defend what you believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Powerful, man. So real quick, I had to make sure I touched on that because that's a really big part of who you are.
Yeah.
Now going back to this music, okay, because there's always this unsaid debate about Christian music, the sound that Christian music gives versus the sound that gospel music gives. And I mean, it's always kind of been like this whole back and forth conversation that I think we've now gotten comfortable to start having, especially on the radio. But it seems like you included both those sounds in the project.
Yeah.
Did you mean to do that and incorporate those different sounds?
Yeah, I just did what my experience dictated. Yeah, that's just who I am. I grew up a church boy.
Yeah.
So, and not only did I grow up in the church, but I grew up, as a musician, I played in gospel spaces. So I was always in, in all the spaces.
In the realms,
always in all the spaces. I did all the conferences and Pentecostal, and Kojic. I was,
all of it.
Oh yeah, Baptist, Baptist, all this. I've been in all the spaces. That's just a big part of who I am. Gospel music is a big part of who I am, what I do. I love gospel music, the feeling, the sound of it. There was a time when I was like super, super critical where I didn't like the content of gospel music because I just felt like, we need more depth. And then I realized, no, that's just what you do. What they're doing is exactly what they need to be doing. Tell them it's going to turn around. Like that's all they. That's
all I need to say.
And watch this. When I have been in some of the darkest places of my life, I ain't knee deep.
Wow.
He going to turn it around.
Right.
I need somebody to say next week.
Right.
I need somebody to say it's an expiration date on your trial, baby. Like I need it all.
Truth needed to hear. Get ready.
Listen. In my darkest seasons, I just needed something that would make me run. It's like, and so I'm saying that to say, gospel music is a big part of who I am.
Okay.
But music in general, I think, is what you hear on the album. You hear the orchestral arrangements. So you're hearing some gospel flavor, but you're also hearing, just my background in music. When I was playing timpanis in the orchestra, so. That's just bringing those things together is important for me.
Yeah, that's good. Now, I also felt like this was something that I had to make sure I asked you because this project, Emanuel, is just, it's a full-length project, 17 songs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you feel like the attention span of your audience has evolved since you started making it? And the only reason I'm asking that is because I was talking to Meah about this, and it seemed like within the past 3 or so years, I'm not sure if the pandemic also affected this, but a lot of the artists that we featured on the show, and even a few mainstream artists, we realized they weren't dropping full-length projects that we know, like the 17, 15, even 20 songs that we know a full-length album to be. They were dropping like double singles. They were dropping a brand new song every 2 weeks. They were dropping little EPs here and there because they felt like
nothing wrong with that, but we saw a change.
Right. But we felt
like.
like, and I think we were even talking to Aaron Cole when we had him on the show, and he was like, I feel like a lot of the songs that we as artists write and we invest so much time into, they're not taking the time to listen to it from the beginning to the end. But you went full-fledged.
With no cares in the world.
No cares in the world.
We love it. No, I love a good long album. I love it.
Y'all finna get these 17
Y'all
songs.
get all this.
You're gonna get all
You're
of
gonna get interludes.
Yes.
And it's gonna be Tamala Man singing hymns.
Exactly.
And this is just what we're doing. Listen, at some point, I've done it all, guys. I did Bridges with Limo.
Yep.
The songs were 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Whatever they were. I did Vet, 7 songs. I did Chasing Ghosts, 3 songs. 2 minutes, 59 seconds.
Yeah.
Fine. I do that too.
Yeah.
That's the thing. When you're around a long time, you could do that too.
Yeah.
I decided for this project, no, this the one y'all gonna get.
Wow.
This is. I feel like it's too important of a project.
Okay.
To cheat it, with not that it has to be long to not be cheated, but in this particular case, it did have to be long to not be cheated. These songs had to be more than 2 minutes and 59 seconds.
Yeah.
In order for, watch this, you to not be cheated. Because the goal of this is for you to have an experience.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I've learned, and it's basic, but you do have to learn it. I'm making music for people who love me for what I do.
Facts. Right.
I can't cast a net so wide that, I lose myself. And I feel like you can play the game to a point, which I play the game. In fact, I'm playing the game in the sense that I'm doing 5 songs leading up to the 17-song album. So I released a song 2 weeks ago, released another song today. And I'm releasing another song next week, So, I get it, the drip, the algorithm, I understand it. It's not lost on me. But at the same time, I create music, watch this, for live experiences. So I don't I'm always thinking live.
Yeah.
So I'm not just thinking about the listening pleasure, of the person who's in the car streaming or at the crib streaming.
When you bring the music in front of people.
Yes, that's how I create my music.
Yes.
I'm thinking about, so for this project, I said, this is how I want it to feel when I'm on stage.
I wish all artists had that mindset. Man, when you hear some songs sometimes and you see them live and it's just kind of like, this stay better on Spotify, man. But then you hear some songs where like they sound, I can't tell you how many songs I've heard where I was like, man, that hit me different hearing it in person.
For sure.
But it's great. It's so beautiful hearing that a project you can hear at home is just as big as an experience as it is when you hear it in person.
Yes. My brain thinks Van Gogh. That's how my mind works. The Van Gogh immersive experience is how my mind works when I'm putting together projects.
Yeah.
There are times where I do smart projects. Bridges was a smart project. Made a lot of sense on a lot of different levels. And then there are times where I just make the project that I believe needs to happen. That's the Van Gogh experience.
Love it.
That's what this is.
Man, you so hear that. You so hear that. And truth, I'm so happy that you were able to come in studio and just expand on the project, because after when we were listening to it, just having all of these were, besides us having to genuinely get ready for an interview, all of these questions were so genuine, were things that we really genuinely wanted to know, because the project just excited us that much. So just wrapping up the interview, which I hate, because when I tell you we could be here all day, man. We could be here all day. Hearing Free on the project, what has it been just breaking away? And do you feel more free in the season? Like, like breaking away from old molds and like, like we talked about evolution and blossoming and things like that. You feeling more grounded and whatnot. Do you feel more free? Like when it comes to where you're currently sitting right now, in your artistry, your mindset, and all that.
I do. Yeah. I think, and I want to be careful with this because I think that there's independent thinking that makes a person free. And then I think there's autonomy, which autonomy is dangerous. So whenever we talk about freedom, I think it's really important to talk about this.
Yeah.
There's freedom from and then freedom to.
Yeah.
So we're not just getting free from stuff. I think that's part of the danger of the culture. We're getting free from one thing, free to another. And then the difference in being an independent free thinker and being autonomous is autonomy is freedom. Independence is freedom within boundaries. Autonomy is freedom without any external voice of accountability. And I think when we talk about freedom, I have to say that. I'm sorry, it's the apologist in me.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
Just because when people hear these terms, they register a certain way.
Okay.
And so I have a responsibility there. All right, cool. So now to answer your question, I do feel more free, yes. I feel what makes me feel free is owning my space, understanding my space, understanding how my age, understanding where I fit, and just taking complete ownership of that, without any equivocation. Like, this is who I am, this is where I fit, this is my sound, and I'm just going to live right there.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've always been free to do that. The only difference would be where I sit in all of it. Because I think what artists struggle with is, how do I evolve? That's why I'm trying to mature it. I'm like, let's keep pushing it.
Right.
Pushing the sound, so that as other artists that are coming behind me, because Aaron, to your point, he's becoming a middle child. He was young when he started.
Yeah,
he was 14.
Yeah, right,
absolutely.
Right.
But he now married.
Right,
He got a mortgage.
Yeah, it was like right. You started saying new school. Yeah.
He got a mortgage now.
Yeah.
So the other artists, I'm trying to create a space for them to age gracefully. That's the freedom. The freedom is when you're aging, don't try to be who you were. Age in a way where it's like fine wine.
Yeah.
Whereas where people can drink from your cup at 50.
Yeah.
Wow.
We can still I heard an argument the other day, a conversation the other day. They were saying Boosie. Boosie was like, Jay-Z is not relevant, and the 27 Savage 2 weeks ago, Nas is not relevant. You see what I'm saying?
Wow.
And Vlad was pushing back on Boosie.
Yeah.
And when Boosie was going back and forth.
Yeah.
Because Vlad was like, nah, I don't agree with that. I think Jay-Z is relevant. He like, nah, Jay-Z relevant for his business. He ain't relevant.
Whoa.
And Vlad was pushing back. They going back and forth.
Right.
And this is what Vlad said. He said, you right. He might not be in the club. They ain't his music they playing in the club.
Right.
But when that man drop an album, it's going to matter.
Crazy.
Whenever he drops music, the world's going to shut down for a second.
Exactly.
Yes.
And the conversation in the barbershop, even if you're younger, is going to be, if you're younger, I don't like Jay, he old. But you talking about Jay-Z.
Exactly.
That's relevance to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's relevant. So what I'm saying is, if we can push CHH to the point where you could be 50 and it's okay, you still got a voice, that's what I'm pushing it for. That's my freedom. My freedom is, let's go. We pushing.
Wow.
We ain't stopping here because you know what I'm saying? We're breaking molds that really constructs that don't make sense no more.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You think about everybody you love. Drake, they older. Drake 37.
Yeah. Yeah.
He ain't 25 no more.
Yeah.
And if CHH, what's happening to CHH is we're getting older, but still it's like, but we don't feel older.
Yeah.
I think Cray does a good job with this.
Yeah.
Like, you feel the maturity of Cray in his music.
Yeah.
You feel like he's I think when we did Heartbeat, he was like, "Yeah, I'm working on a will." Like, it's like, it's Cray does a great job at bringing you into the kind of the process of aging in this thing. And I think we just got to keep pushing. So that's my freedom as an artist in this. I'm like, I'm sitting in a space that is very comfortable for me because I understand my role in this.
I see it.
You see what I mean? Does that make sense?
No,
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's it.
But it's even interesting because the more we talk about this, and it's like behind every single answer that you give, I hear you going from being a forerunner to now you willingly volunteering, getting at the back of CHH and pushing it forward.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But not
I'm
only
more
that, I'm on fire over here. Man.
And it's not the heater in studio. Trust me, it's not the heater that's in studio right
Hey,
now.
turn that heater off, man. I'm too hot over here. But not only that, but you're talking so much about aging like fine wine and getting older gracefully and aging gracefully. It just talks so much to the legacy that's being left for CHH.
And let me tell you why that's important.
Talk about it.
Because it's not just the artist. Here's how everybody wins from this. The problem right now is the audience that started with me, they don't know they have permission to still like me. Because they're like, CHH is so young now.
They got to go to the next shiny thing.
So they feel like they either go mainstream, J. Cole or whoever their people, their thing is, or just completely different genres. Because they don't know. It's not that they wouldn't love it if they knew they had permission to.
Yeah.
They feel like they aged out of it because what happened was all the pastors were like, when we were doing shows, this is where we got messed up. All the pastors be like, make sure you come this afternoon. The truth gonna be in the house. Bring all the kids.
Bring the kids.
Wow.
Bring all the kids.
Bring all the kids. Make sure you bring your young people. And so what it did was it psychologically, every 35-year-old that loves hip hop.
Yeah. Now they're thinking all the kids are going to be there.
They can't say out loud, I'm going to the Truth concert.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not after the pastor just said,
bring all the kids.
You 35-year-olds, bring your kids.
Oh, wow.
And they did that for 10, 15 years. Bring the kids.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved you for my young people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's because they missed the middle.
Yeah.
The middle is the 35, 40, 45 that loves hip hop. It ain't going nowhere. It ain't never going nowhere.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
They missed the middle. And so now, unfortunately, we have to do damage control. We're having to do more work on the back end now and say, no, this ain't just for the kids. This ain't just for this is not just to have fun. This is, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
J. Cole set himself up as somebody that you listen to as a thinker, as a sociologist, as a student of culture, as a, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In mainstream, they don't think about it. They don't see it as for the kids in mainstream music.
Wild.
They don't see it as for the kids.
Wow.
Your 50 and 55-year-old be like, yo, you going to the Jay concert? Yeah, we going to that.
Yeah, right.
Soon as Ye came to Atlanta for the listening party, my phone was crazy. You going to the Ye?
Yeah.
Nobody, 55, 60 years old, nobody's thinking about age.
Nobody.
Yeah.
But in Christian hip hop, because they made it for the kids,
Oh, wow.
now we got to grow it up. We're like, no, you got permission. It's okay to listen, to still love it. But now the artists have to say, so everybody has to work together.
Yeah,
The artists got to keep growing up.
Yeah.
And we got to keep maturing.
Yeah.
Maturing the genre.
Maturing the conversation, maturing. We got to keep growing
to
up.
create that safe space.
The space for it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So anyway, it's so fun.
Crazy.
That's so good because we don't have conversations like that.
We don't.
Yeah, no.
But when you think about it, like there's been too many times where we've been to church functions and church events, and then they got something in the evening for the younger kids
people.
or the young people that the pastor does invite everybody with the intentions of wanting people to come out, but when they put the tag on the kids, that's where everything gets messed up.
College students don't want to come to that.
Yeah.
That's for the kid.
But
bring your young people to college
that's the
students.
target audience.
Yeah.
Right. You know, but I don't want to be, I don't want to be with my niece that watch Coco Melon every 2 seconds.
I can't do Coco Melon.
You know?
Yeah. But no, even candidly speaking, like Meesa and I were having conversations about how next year we would have been doing this for 10 years. Like we started when we were 16 and 18.
Yeah.
And we were like teens and young adults.
Yeah.
Everyone, and we're not. Meesa's 28. I'm about to be 26.
We
you know
are
what I'm
real
saying?
grown.
You know what I'm saying? So like we were even thinking like, you know, we got to even change and we want there to be a safe space for, because I got friends who are 30.
Yeah.
My mom puts her friends who are on to our show, who that listen to our music, the music that we play, which is you and things like that. So I love that conversation of now having to create a safe space for everyone who loves it. Like, you know, even how, not to be deep, but Jesus was all things to all people.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not just for the young. It's for everyone who just loves this music, loves what it's about, and loves you. Doesn't matter what age you are. Everyone can come and fully enjoy and be safe in there.
I'm telling
and feel welcome.
Mia, listen.
We got to give flames over the truth.
We got to give flames.
We've been giving flames all day.
Me too. But listen, the truth, formerly known as the truth, now welcome and celebrating the evolution and development and blossom of Emanuel. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show, to just really bring us in to have this conversation.
Yeah,
it was so needed for me personally, for all of our listeners and viewers out there. But before you go, give everyone your social media so that they can stay connected with you.
Do I look at the camera here?
You can do whatever you want. You've been
social
in this
media.
Right.
What's going on, y'all? Social media is Instagram is The Truth on Duty. I think everything is pretty much The Truth on Duty. That's The Truth on Duty. Is DA Ebonic. The Truth on Duty. Facebook, if you're still on Facebook, The Truth. And what else is there? TikTok, I think it's The Truth on Duty. So yeah, everything's The Truth on Duty except Facebook, which is The Truth. Make sure you connect with me. And I got a lot going on. I'm pushing hard. This is about to be a beautiful season. So trek with me. Let's go.
Listen, make sure you guys are following Emanuel on all social media. And listen, man, listen to me, y'all. When this album drops, man, don't sleep, man. I mean that so wholeheartedly. It's don't miss out on this experience. Like it's something that's truly going to speak to you, bless you. I mean that beyond, like we talked about, beyond the fire emojis. It's something that's going to truly impact you. And we want you to experience it. The album's called Emanuel. It drops January 27th. We need you guys to go get it when it drops.
Yes, on all streaming platforms, wherever you like to get music, make sure you get your hands on this project. Once again, Emanuel, thank you so
honored,
much,
thank you so
my
much
family, man.
M&M is in the building.
Absolutely, with Emanuel, having a great time here, man. Listen, we have so much more for you. Stick around where you got it. My name is Meesa,
and my name is Meah,
and we also go by M&M, and we're from the #1 teen young adult radio show in the nation. For inspiration, you already know
it's M&M Live Radio.
Yes, sir. We'll talk to you soon.